sculptures from of Eleanor and Franklin?
Well, let me say, first of all, when I was making these landmark collages, and I kept walking by this location on 36th Street, 125 36th Street, if you want to go there, that I thought that this brownstone is boring. This brownstone is boring, and the only interesting thing about it, in a way, was the plaque, right? And so, the medallion, you call it a medallion all over the place, that if you don't see that and get close to it and be obnoxious and walk up the steps, then what's so different about this location? And and it is interesting also that some of these buildings, and this building goes back to the, really goes back to the 19th century. Because it was definitely built in the late 1800s, for sure, because these folks moved in 1905, and I believe that Eleanor was 21 years old when she moved in, and they were basically, Franklin and Eleanor were having their honeymoon, and they spent 2 years there making 2 babies. And then they moved to a gigantic mansion somewhere.
But you didn't answer the question.
What's that?
Answer the question.
Okay, so the original question was, where did the statues come from? So a few years ago, I was lucky enough to drive up to Hyde Park to the Roosevelt Library, right? So I went to the Roosevelt Library, and I had some friends basically with me, so I took pictures of them sitting down or interacting with Eleanor and Franklin, who were sitting at a table outside of the library. And I thought, that's, in my head I'm thinking, gee, I took these pictures like 5 or 6 years ago, but wow, wouldn't it be great to be able to actually bring them back to the building and make it maybe look a little bit more interesting, and maybe get a feeling for what they looked like when they were there. But so I was caught between actually doing something really realistic and like moving them around to a place where it would normally look like they could have just been walking out the door or just walking up the stairs. But then it just seemed like I tried that in a way with Franklin, thinking that he definitely was standing in front of that door a few times and had to look a little bit like that, even though I believe he's a little bit older here than when he was there. He was like in his mid-20s, because he was a little bit older than Eleanor, that he just looked really happy, and Eleanor looked so thrilled to be back. I mean, because I had seen her at the table and she's like there in the upstate, but here it looked like she was so happy to be back, which is maybe sounds a little crazy, but the building seemed much happier too. And so I thought that having, and I call it the plaque, did you call it the
medallion?
So the medallion to me was very challenging. Originally I had the medallion right up here, because I had an issue with when I first went and saw the building, they had a garbage can in the front. They had a garbage can with a red little handle on it. And I said, oh God, what good is that? But then right before the due date, right before the deadline to get the collage done, for some crazy reason, they got rid of the garbage can, and they put flowers in this section here.
Wow.
You'll notice that right next to the window, that there weren't any flowers or anything there all the time I had seen it. All of a sudden, like a week before I was making this collage, the flowers showed up, and I went a little crazy with them. Because basically when you're doing a collage, you're moving people's eyes around. So I'm moving people's eyes around. Now what would you look at? The first thing you would look at when you see the collage, in my opinion, the first thing you would probably see this. You'd probably see the wording there. And so I had chosen to put it in the corner. And then I was looking around, is there anything interesting about this brownstone? And I thought, well, this lamp is so cool, actually. So I blew up the lamp. I tried to get a decent picture of the lamp, saying, let's get the lamp together. And then the other most exciting part was the rail. The rails, which are crazy. So I figured I had left rail, right rail. And when I did the right rail, I really also wanted to show the bottom of the rail, so I interacted with two images, and they actually came together themselves. It was crazy, because if you work in the computer, that all of a sudden they just lined up. And I said, that's nice, because what it does, it brings your eye here, and then back up there, and then Franklin aims back at Eleanor, because you're always going to look at Eleanor after you see the wording. And so the other problem I had was this was crooked. It was crooked. And so I kept trying to straighten it out, and then I thought it was too small. So one of the last things I did was I enlarged it, trying to make sure that when people see it, they'll be able to read it, and that it was not too, it's probably going, it's pretty darn straight, at this point, I thought. And so even though it was a very kind of boring building, I think also choosing an angle, which I've done for other ones, you can see that downstairs, in the piece, the Morgan Jr. house, which I'll show you a little later, that getting unusual angles helps a little bit for me, thinking, well, no one's actually ever going to see it that way, so it's interesting to give them an angle they'll never see it at, and maybe it makes it move around, so I thought that this brought your eye down here, it brought your eye down there, and then he's always looking at her, and so you have this circle going around, and I thought that worked pretty well, actually, and it needed the statues.
One thing I really like is the perspective on the left, the way you see the building there from the side view. That's just very satisfying.
Yeah.
That angle of it.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that, because when I first started this whole collage, I had just this, and I had the wording right in that way, and that's all I had. I thought that was kind of nice. And then when I went back, I noticed there's no flowers up here, and they definitely improved the building, making it prettier. But that angle was so right. I thought that angle just seemed so right that it really, really gives you the idea of what that angle is so different than this angle. And this angle was like a whole other world, but it's the same building. But it feels like another location almost. So I thought that was working out well, but it's really great that you said that. I appreciate that so much. And then one thing I was very self-conscious about was also that the middle, that finally settling on what picture was going to be down here, that it actually is a little crooked. A tiny bit crooked, but I thought you wouldn't notice, as long as the steers are kind of parallel to the bottom, I thought that would work. And so, what was I calling it? The Roosevelt Home, really, even though it's this house. It's not really a house, it's a home, And so, yes.
Question. So how did you, you saw the notice about the competition, and then went and looked at all these buildings to decide what you wanted to...
Oh, definitely. I saw the list, and of course, I literally live across the street from the Morgan Library, and pretty much across the street from the Polish Embassy, which is what I call it, and literally across the street from what I call Morgan Jr. House, and not too far from the church. But so when I see all these buildings all the time, and I saw the list, and I said, well, I know this one, and then I said, well, conceptually, and I had walked by it literally hundreds of times, saying conceptually, I think the Roosevelt project would be great, except it's the most boring building in the landmark group. It really is. There's absolutely almost nothing interesting about it, but once you look at it, I did manage, I think, to find some interesting parts of the architecture, and then bringing the couple back, for their honeymoon, back to the building. I thought, that would be nice, because it just made me feel, gave it a really warm feeling. And I did have a feeling, I had a feeling of closeness with Eleanor, because my cousin, whose name is Bert Berinsky, who was a photographer for the Lady Garment Workers Union in 1960, and had been in the U.S. Army in Germany in the 1950s, and was in the first graduating class at Brandeis University, that he photographed John Kennedy. John Kennedy was his focus in 1960. So he was, if you go to the Kennedy Library in Boston, you can see a bunch of his pictures there. And one of the pictures that I really loved was of Eleanor Roosevelt. So he took this picture during the campaign. It was 1960, and she looked so, it was so interesting that I wanted to put it in the slideshow, which I will still maybe will publish a little later. And so I felt a certain closeness with Eleanor. And it's just a natural idea to try to bring her back, and I think we did that. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I have a question too.
Oh, yes?
It looks like the versions of the house you have here are on the pale, on the very sunlit side. So did you make an effort to make sure they were coordinated, or you know, you could change them in the computer so they all look the same color?
Well, that's a very good question, because again, going back to in a way, the first image that I really liked was kind of dull in color. And then this middle image was like, wow, this is a really good lens. I'm across the street, the traffic is stopped, and I'm going much further away, and so I thought this had the real color of the building. And then getting an unusual angle, it was true. We walked over there, and all of a sudden, the sun came out and started making the colors so much better. So I never tried to make these colors better, because I just thought, you know, it is what it is in a way, and it makes Eleanor look kind of better when the background is kind of dull. Because I actually insisted, and this is something that I made a decision to do, which is I actually brought a little bit of Hyde Park with me too, because you see the background of Eleanor, you can see the green, background was actually at Hyde Park, so that she's really in front of the country. So I brought her back to the country, which is not White Plains, but I brought her back to the country, and I thought that was a great way to make that brighter. And then when I came back, and they had all of a sudden, I saw they got rid of the garbage can, and they replaced it with a really nice, bunch of green. And then there was the little window section was all really bright. That this was all going to be really, really, really much prettier and have much more color. And because the sun had just come out, you can see. But that was the challenge of every single landmark, trying to find the time of the day when it looks better or not. And you can see that in the Morgan Jr. picture too, like trying to get them all to be different. Because I think of some of these buildings, and some of them are really like canvases. They're like canvases that you can change the color in, and just basically the building never looks the same every hour of the day. They look different.
I just think Audrey mentioned the perspective on that side. It's almost like on the other side behind Franklin. It's also the perspective of looking down, and you look at either side. It's sort of what do you call it? Symmetry.
Yeah. Coordinated, kind of.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. It was more like looking down.
Right.
As opposed to
right.
straight
But I mean, you
across.
can see the angle of the perspective. That's what I was saying.
Yeah. So I thought it kind of worked.
Yeah.
There's no question that the biggest challenge in a way of the whole piece was trying to make Franklin's hands not look weird, because his hands were on a table. One of them had a book in his hand in a way, and the other one's on the table. So trying to make the hands not look unusual in that situation, and originally think, well, maybe this hand should be opening the door, which would be kind of funny. But that was an idea, and it's close to that in a way, thinking he's going toward the door. But that was a tough part, getting that.
I think of it like he's pointing, like this is my house.
Exactly. So I think it kind of works
Lenny,
out.
I think what the lady was pointing, I don't know your name, so I say the lady.
That's it, Barbara.
But what Barbara was pointing out is that on both sides you have a certain perspective, and I think it just...
The angles are...
Yeah.
It just
that's just from the artistic eye.
That makes a semicircle.
Yeah. So I don't think you did that intentionally, but it works very, very well.
Right.
Yeah, it just seems like it naturally did. And I suppose for me, the only confusing part of the whole image is this area here. Because I'm going, well, okay, this makes sense, right? And this kind of makes sense. But why is this, why is that happening? And then I thought, well, this this section here with the circle
That's
makes
what
it
gets
kind of
your
work.
Yeah,
But that, to me, that was kind of what you would call, like, if I had to say, the weakest corner, or the less exciting corner. It's sort of like, this brings you around, but you're not going to stay there. I mean, you'll go there, and then you're going someplace else. Because, you know, and I actually did have, we had a friend come, Nanette came by, and she was looking around, and I saw her standing here like this, right? And it was like 5 minutes, right? Then it's 10 minutes. So for 15 minutes, looking at what I couldn't figure out. And then she goes to me and says, I don't think this is as interesting as the library one, as the Morgan Library one. And I'm saying, well, I could see that because you don't see 1,000 books here, and there's nothing going on in a way except for this building that's a boring brownstone. You know, so I can understand how if you were trying to examine and say, well, what's so exciting about this? And the only thing is to get these old statues and the building's just another, and that's why when you walk by, you go, it doesn't really get you. And right next to it, I think there's I'm not sure what the console is, there's a couple of countries with beautiful flags all around, so it's a very competitive area, but I think that we did kind of bump it up.
If you go up close, they'll have the name of the country there. You know,
Yeah, I will.
if you want to.
It's very easy to figure out which one was right next to it, but in any case, well, thanks for appreciating it. Thank you so much.
I have a question. Technically, you do that on Photoshop or you cut?
No, this was on Photoshop.
Everything on Photoshop. It's not a picture that you cut out and paste and so forth.
Well, the way I was working with Photoshop, just to get into it for a moment, was I started out with let's say with a canvas of 24 by 36 big. And then I'm building into that canvas, I'm choosing different sections, and in Photoshop what I was doing is I would bring the image into the section and then see, is it too big, is it too small, is it the wrong color, is it the wrong contrast? So I have to enlarge or shrink, enlarge or make smaller, enlarge or make smaller till it fits. Like I think I changed the size of this 3 times. So it was too wide, it's too narrow, and then it kind of got to be right. And changing the size, I definitely, like you'll see Franklin's a little bit bigger than Eleanor conceptually, even from what the statues were, that it seemed like it worked better if it was a little bigger. And just grabbing these different sections seemed interesting, but they never worked by themselves. They had to be tucked in. And I'm saying, well, does this work here? You know, in Photoshop, things kind of lined up, and then you worry about, is there a little opening here, is there a little opening there, is there a little white section, I gotta do this. Then I figured, well, after I print it, I could probably take a pencil and touch it up if I had to, instead of Photoshop always making it as perfect as possible. But it worked out, I think, pretty well in Photoshop.
I think she was asking if you cut, it's like this collage, like this is a collage too.
But old-fashioned.
But this is little pieces of paper.
Actual pieces of paper.
And like,
That is another collage.
this is
That is
done
a-
digital, it's done on a computer.
Yeah, so it is technically a digital collage
Then you have
versus...
some photo on your desktop or something, and you take pictures like that, and you push them or
Well, yeah, I mean, technically speaking, I had taken approximately, probably about 60 to 70 pictures. 60 or 70 pictures, maybe, I don't think I took 100 of this one. 60 or 70 pictures through the time, because I had already been photographing it before the competition. I had photographed it a few times, but not until the competition happened did I say, am I going to do this? And then I didn't even finish it. It was so difficult until I brought Eleanor and Franklin in there. I was doing it, and saying, it's not going to make it. But when they came in, all of a sudden, it just seemed like it was worthwhile. And I thought, let's bring it to because I also had done one of the Union, what is it you call it?
Union League Club.
I had done a collage of the Union League, and this would have been the 7th, and I was only getting 6 to do in there, so I changed the Union League and pulled it out and chose this one instead. And I had the slideshow I was going to show. I was going to show the original Union League one to show what I thought wasn't perfect about it. And it became a question, and the Union League was a question, is it important to have the interior of the landmark or just the exterior? And now I understand that the interior might not be protected, but the exterior is, and so technically speaking, you want
But
to be
it's up to
exterior.
you. It's still, as we consumers, or, people go into the building, the out and the inside, it's connected as an experience. So you could put the inside.
No, I
whatever
understand.
makes
So
sense.
in the Union, I had been inside the Union League once, and the chandeliers are beautiful. There was this beautiful chandeliers inside, and the interior is really worth including. So I was thinking if I was going to ever finish the Union League one, I'd like to try to go inside and get some chandelier pictures into it instead of just the exterior. But that's why I made the choice to include this one instead of the Union League. But
By
thank
the
you so
way, you
much.
said for you, you asked at the beginning, what does our eye go to first?
Yeah.
And for me, it was the two of them, the couple, not the medallion. That's where my eye goes, then I see.
No, that
that's
makes
the-
a million percent. It makes a million percent. It makes so much
They're
sense
welcoming me to their home.
because the building itself, the architecture is kind of.
But it's the meaning of the Roosevelt son. He was one of our great presidents.
Yes.
He was president
Most people would say
for
so.
16 years, four times.
Everybody.
16 years. It reminds me of what a recent president would like to try. to do.
Yeah,
I'm not
knock
gonna-
another one down.
Thank you.
God.